There's something supremely satisfying about catching walleye other anglers overlook. Up next, Jon Thelen reveals how he finds success in surprising places.
There's one right there. Look at that. What a great way to start when you're just not sure, you know? When you're taking a little bit of a guess on whether there's going to be fish somewhere or not, there's nothing better than getting lined up, start your pass. I had a fish bite it and miss it, and now I got one hooked up. Got a feeling we might be onto something here. We'll see if this is a walleye or that. Now that's the other thing about this that you got to remember. Oh yeah, nice walleye. Look at that. That's the other thing about this that you got to remember is you might get some pike in a scenario like this. There might be a lot of different things that happen because you're not fishing that high percentage for sure. This is what should be here, like I might have been if I was out fishing some of that mid-lake stuff. But I just can't get to it. I mean, I just can't fish it. So I'm better off just getting into something like this and seeing if we can dial into some fish that probably haven't seen a bait come through in a long time. That's a great eye. But I don't think anybody's fishing anything like this anymore. Everybody's moved on to the mid-lake stuff because conventional wisdom says that's where the fish are. What a great fish right there. Chuck that guy back. Look at that, off like a rocket. Man, that is a cool start. I'm cruising in 21, 22 feet. Here's what I did. I drove through here, took a look. I looked a little shallower. I started 17, 18, and I just did some zigzag until I saw some fish on the graph. Lined up, and here we go. Tell you what, let's put a waypoint down on that because that will get kind of critical when you're fishing a trolling run that you're not sure until you get sure, right? And if we determine that this 20 to 23 feet is magical, then we've got some waypoints lined up to follow. That's a great start right there. You know, I think one of the things when you look at fishing in general that gets so overlooked and underestimated, and I used to have to do this when I was tournament fishing, is just going out and looking for fish in areas where you may not expect them to be. And that's how most tournaments are won, to be very honest with you, and that's how most guides fish. There's a fish on that one right there. It's busy dealing with a line that got tangled up on me. So I just grabbed another rod, threw it out. I don't know if this one's very big. It's another fish. This is cool stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you this kind of deal where you're gonna go catch tons and tons and tons of fish all the time. Another good eye. But I'll tell you, this is far better than saying, let's stay in. Look at this, that's good. That's a nice walleye. I'm just gonna hoist him because I got my net tangled. Well, I guess my net's not really tangled up, but it was in that mess. Look at that, another great eye. That's awesome. And all I'm doing is trolling a spot where I can get out of the wind and fish are in here still. I mean, that's just awesome. I just drove around, found them on the graph, and man, 22 feet on that one. I'm over here dealing with a tangled mess that I got over here because I free spooled that lead core a little too much. And this fish bites one that I just chucked back out, just changing colors around and messing around with stuff. Because you know, one of the things about this type of bite is there's no knowing. I mean, when you just pick this up and start, there's no knowing. There's no knowing for sure what the best color is going to be, what the best speed's going to be. You know, I'm just tinkering around here, and a little easier going with the wind that's wrapping around that point than it was going against it. But man, I'll tell you, that's awesome. I think crankbaits, when it comes down to it, are the best way to fish in a scenario like this. I mean, it's it's early summer right now, and a lot of people don't think about crankbaits, but when these fish are scattered out and the numbers are lower in an area, pulling crankbaits allows you to cover ground. And if you can cover that ground, holy smokes, I mean, like you can see, I mean, we're getting to them, we're finding them, and we're getting them caught. I'm running 105 feet of lead core out, and I'm just cruising along between 2 and 2.2, 2.3, somewhere in that neighborhood, and I'm getting through the areas without fish far faster than I would if I was trying to run a spinner at 1 mile an hour or a Lindy rig at 0.5, because you can spend an awful lot of time at that point saying, well, I just don't think anything's here. But if you do what we're doing here and cover that ground with these crankbaits, here's what you'll find out. Most of the time by this time of the year, the fish are aggressive. They're ready to bite. So a crankbait's just fine with them. But the thing is, you're getting rid of that dead water in between fish as I see them scattered as I go, a heck of a lot quicker. There's one right there. Got him, yep. Awesome. This is cool. You know, a lot of times back when I was tournament fishing, you'd fish like this, right here, not sure of what you were going to get, but you just put yourself in a position where you just fished, and that's what you did. You know, you'd look at stuff with your graph, you'd look at high percentage areas on your map, but then you had to just go fish. And I think there's something so cool about just going fishing, and that's what we're doing here. You know, there's not a boat to be seen, nobody around me. Everybody who's fishing is either fishing the other side of the lake where it's calmer, or they're sitting on shore because of the wind. If I go around that point right now, there's 3.5 footers. Miserable to fish over there. But right now, I'm sitting on a spot, and instead of saying, let's not go fishing, I'm sitting here catching walleyes that are obviously missed. Nobody knows these fish are here. And the only thing that made me think they're probably still in here is driving around and just looking, because there's a nice break. It drops out into deeper water. Another great fish, man. This is just cool. So what I'm using here, this is a Bomber 24A, but it's a shorter, smaller profile bait. Now, the other thing I'm doing though, is instead of choosing a shallow diver that's got a tight action, I am using a deep diver, even though I'm using lead core, that's got a wider wobble. And what I'm using that for is this. I've got the right profile, I got the right size, but I'm putting an aggressive action down there, and here's why. These fish are scattered. I can sit and watch a graph and I can go 100 yards without seeing one, and then I see one or two. When they're scattered like that, you want to use what I would like to call a search bait. Okay, something with a bigger, wider wobble, and then rattles. Those rattles right there, that's helping me out. So ultimately, I'm going to use a bait that's more search bait and more attack bait. When they see this, they're going to attack it because of the action, because of the noise, but the profile's right. And I think we're dialed in on the color. This is a perch fishery or a shiner minnow fishery. And what I'm doing is, you know, you can look at, I'm either using Fire Tiger or I'm using this one. I'm trying to emulate a perch, but the bottom of this one could give you some shiner as well with the white. So think about that. When you're picking cranks, make sure you're picking the right profile. But when you're fishing an area where you know there's not a ton of fish, use something that's going to grab their attention. If you do that, your odds are going to be a lot higher that you're going to sit and catch them. Yep, there he is. Yep. Bet that's a walleye. You know, a lot of times when a walleye hits a crank, you'll notice on lead core, there'll be a boom, boom, and you'll feel like maybe he's gone, but they'll swim with it. And part of the reason they're swimming with it, you've got that bow in the line, and you just don't see some of the fight. Yeah, that's an eye, he's up on the surface. When they hit the surface like that, you can usually bet it's a walleye. Once they get up there, I like to just keep them up there, especially when it's a big fish, if I can. It's not a big one, but great eater-sized walleye. Man, he just attacked that bait. Look at that, good fish. In fact, he's hooked good enough, I'll just hoist him. Sometimes you can get away with that. When they're hooked this good, you can see he's got it all the way down. Another 17-incher, man. What a day. What a cool day. Because I was worried this morning when I got up. I looked at the wind, and it was exactly what was forecast. 20 to 25, and the first thing I thought is, man, I don't know if we're going to be able to fish today. I don't know, I know we're not gonna fish where we wanna fish, but I'll tell you what, this has been a lot of fun just coming in. Man, he was in a hurry to get out of there. A lot of fun just coming in and fishing something that it's all because I just looked around. I looked around, put a little time into it, spent a lot of time on the sonar of that time, just looking at what was out here and finding a depth where I saw some activity. And man, I'll tell you, don't believe for a minute that every walleye gets done spawning, gets all the way through June, gets into July or whatever that time frame is, and heads for deep water. We're at the end of June right now, and there's still fish working deep water in the bays right where they spawned. They don't all leave, and you can have something like this all to yourself. Go look for this next time that you're faced with a situation where the wind's gonna keep you off the main body of water. Look for one of these bays, look for those spots where you get a drop off into deep water, and go pull some cranks. I'll tell you what, you're gonna find out there's fish in spots you never knew. That's awesome.